Welcome to the Eltropy Exchange podcast, where leaders of community financial institutions connect, learn, and stay ahead. In each episode, we sit down with industry executives, innovators, and experts for candid conversations about the challenges and opportunities shaping CFIs today. At Eltropy, we believe conversations matter. Let's dive in.
Welcome back, everybody, for our newest episode of the Eltropy Exchange. My name is Michael Pupil, Vice President at Eltropy, and today we have got a fun conversation for everybody. I get the lovely opportunity of introducing our next podcast guest, Desiree Williams, who is a collections manager at Money One Federal Credit Union, where she believes successful collections is more than just dialing for dollars. It's about building relationships, strengthening teams, supporting members through their financial hardship. And with over 20 years of experience in banking and credit unions, Desiree has over 15 years in collections specifically, where she has firsthand knowledge of a service-first approach that fosters loyalty, boosts engagement, and obviously enhances the collaboration across the departments that she works with. And so by integrating financial counseling and debt solutions into her strategy, Desiree and her team have transformed collections into a member-focused experience that drives results. And all of these things are my love language when it comes to collections. So Desiree, a huge warm welcome to being part of the Eltropy Exchange podcast. Thank you for spending time with us today.
I'm honored to be here. I'm excited too. And that all sounds so good. I'm like, that's me? Yes, it sounds amazing.
I love it. I love it. Well, let's start there, Desiree. Tell us about your career journey. What led you into collections? What keeps you passionate about this field? Let's unpack the box.
Sure. So I think, as is common with a lot of people in collections, it wasn't my intended career path. I was in college for a math degree, and that tells you that I had no career direction. I started working part-time as a bank teller, and I enjoyed working at the bank. I enjoy helping people and meeting new people, the service part of it. And I just progressed from there into the service side and branch manager. And then I got laid off as part of a merger. And it was a redirection. I was kind of sad about it, but I applied for a collections position and it went from there. I started as a collector. Then I got my license as a financial counselor, and then I became the debt solutions manager and was able to innovate the department and turn things around. And I really enjoyed it. I got the feeling of helping people, but also seeing how it worked behind the scenes. So I felt like it was a better fit for me.
Amazing. And so by accident is basically what I'm hearing there.
It worked out.
It worked out, and to a true calling. And what's the adage? All things happen for a reason. And I think that seems to be a more common story where just this is what happened, and then people fall in love with it.
Mhm.
I feel like we've had a lot of conversations where we have had no fun at all. But collections, one thing that I think we agree on is that collections is often seen as a reactive function, right? It's once they get there, then we do something. Now, you approach things a little bit differently, where proactive is probably a word that is a lot more favorited than reactive. Talk to me a little bit about how over the years, now that you've fallen in love with the collection system, what are some of the proactive, kind of resources that you use, or things that you do, or strategy that you employ, versus what I think is probably a little more prevalent in the industry?
Definitely. So I think being proactive, being strategic. So it's not just wait till they're past due, send them an email, send them a letter. It's before they even get to the end of the grace period, before they even get a late fee, we're letting them know we're here. Are you having issues? How can we help you? This is the way to make a payment. We're sending a text message at 5 days. We're sending an email at 10 days so they know. Yeah. There's no way you should get to 30 days and not have spoken with someone, or someone tried to reach you at least 3 times. It's no longer we make threats, we come to your job, we knock on your door, we strong arm you into paying. We want you to know we're here before it's even a big issue, when it's still a little tiny small issue.
So, Desiree, I'm going to ask you a question. So you communicate with the member before the grace period?
Correct. So we offer 10 days. The late fees on the 11th day. At 5 days, you're getting a text message. 10 days, you're getting an email. Like, hey, just a friendly reminder. And that's the wording. It's warm. hey, this payment is due. This is the amount. This is the way to make a payment. Please
Yep.
contact us if you're having issues. Not like, hey, you're late. Make this payment. Thanks, management.
I love it. It has been a drum that we've been beating. Anybody that's listening to this, if we have been on the phone, you know that I am a big advocate for the earliest stage of communication. In fact, even in pre-delinquency, to send things out. Now, of course, if members are on an automatic payment and they've never been late, maybe those, reminders aren't necessarily the best fit. But, identifying those that you can get in contact with earlier allows more time for that resolution. And I love that you subscribe to that. And by the way, this was not pre-scripted. This is what ultimately led to these conversations with Desiree to say, we need to have these conversations live on our podcast. Now, in terms of the team, because you've made a lot of changes with the team as you're building this out, what are some of the biggest leadership lessons that you've learned in collections, and how has that shaped your approach? More so on the leadership side for you.
So my phone is ringing. Do you want to pause so I can silence it and then you re-ask that question and we take it out? I am so sorry.
That's okay. I didn't even hear it. You know what? And maybe we don't even need to cut it out. It's fun when real life happens. Who knows?
Oh my goodness, all the prep, and the phone's just ringing in the background. So the question was, I'm sorry, because I was looking at the phone like, oh no.
No worries. The question is pretty much, can you share a couple of your biggest leadership lessons that you've learned in collections, and how has that shaped your approach?
So generally, and collections. So generally, I would say that continuing education, continuing to learn and take courses about management, about collections, about the industry. I always laugh. I think it's the Zig Ziglar quote where he's like, motivation doesn't last, but neither does bathing. That's why you have to do it every day. It's like you have to continue to be motivated and to remind yourself why you do it. You surround yourself with other people who are in the same situation, who want to help members. So you're learning new things about how to be a good manager, how to communicate with your team, how to keep them motivated, how to prevent their burnout. And then the same thing for you. Anything that you learn, you pass on to your team and you absorb for yourself.
So well said, and especially with burnout, I think that has become more and more of a real, issue as delinquencies rise. Teams have not necessarily increased in scale, and so teams are trying to handle more with less, it seems, and that's where kind of the use of technology obviously comes into play. But before we jump into the technology side, I'd love to talk about that word that I just used of empathy. That too is something that we have a lot in common. I think we both feel like it is the most important word when it comes into this space. So how do you balance empathy with accountability in collections?
So I make it clear to my team, and my team makes it clear to members, we're here to help you as long as you're working with us. If you're willing and you're able, we'll set up payment plans, we'll give you options. We're not like, oh, you can't pay, we're picking up the car, that's it. It's not in our best interest. And we tell them, we have these candid conversations like, hey, we're trying to help you. We're trying to protect the credit union, but we also want to help you. We want a win-win situation. So we're reiterating that we're in the people business. We want to solve your problem and also solve our problem too. So I think when you have these honest conversations and you also let them know that we're here to help, there's different things we can do. It's not just pay or proceed to the attorney or proceed to repossession or proceed to third-party collections. There's options. There's things we can do to help.
Yeah, that seems a little cold, and I like that you have the warm touch point to that. Desiree, in some of the questions we've talked about collections crunch time. That's a term that you've used with me before. I would love for you to explain collections crunch time to the listeners out there.
So I think there's a bigger picture too to that. So when I have staff come in, I have them fill out a survey that says, what are your favorite things? I'm saying like your drink, your color, your plant, what do you like to do on the weekends? Because it's about engagement, not just with the members, but with the staff. When they feel engaged and appreciated, they perform better. So it's little things like I brought pie in on Pie Day on March 14th. And if that's something that makes you smile and feel appreciated, that's something small I can do, and I can bring you some cherry pie. It's no big deal. But crunch time, the last business day of the month, the credit union, let me not say we like I'm paying for it, the credit union treats us to lunch. And we all have lunch provided. We still take our breaks. We're still following the labor laws. But so you don't have to be worrying about if you need to bring lunch or if you have to run out. You're focused on the crunch time at the end of the month. We're trying to get these payments in. We're trying to last minute reach out to any other member that we haven't heard from, follow up on promise to pay. So we're saying, you're important to us. We want you to work as hard as you can, but we also want to give you some kind of small reward to show you we appreciate the hard work.
So just for those listening, one, I think that that's a terrific idea. There's definitely some credit unions out there that I speak to that does the team activities. But for all those that listened, the degree was math in college, and there was pie on Pi Day. So
it's no coincidence.
It took me a split second to put the 314 in terms of pi and pi, and so I could go to 314.16 after that, no more. I was not a math major, but I caught the math reference that's in there. So once you're in that field, I guess you never get out. So it's very
clever. It never goes away. It never goes
away. That's amazing. So let's switch gears. I talked a little bit about technology before. I kind of backtracked a little bit to focus a little bit more on the team, because I think you do some really creative things to keep the team engaged, and I agree. And I think everybody agrees. When people are in a good mood, when the morale is high, you get a lot more done. When morale is low, it can be borderline toxic and really difficult to even accomplish the simple tasks. And so this is where I think technology has really helped teams be able to automate the things that can be automated. Kind of the manual process of just moving one piece to the next. And so you've recently introduced text messaging for collections. Walk us through that decision that you made. Why was it important to do that? What were the challenges that you faced? Take us back in time. And that obviously was before my time, with Eltropy and the podcast. So, give us a little bit of history there.
Sure. So, I love how it all ties together. So this goes back to continuing education. I was at a Collections Leadership Institute last September, and I was talking to other managers about different things that they were introducing and things that were helping them. And someone mentioned Eltropy as a vendor that they use for text messages. So I wrote it in my little notebook. And when I came back, I got some proposals from different vendors to see what the best fit would be for us. And unknown to me, we were already vetting Eltropy for a product that also helps our lending department. Yeah. And it helped us as a tool for collections as well. So we started the collections text message program. We went live the last week of January. And when we went live, it was slow working. We wanted to see how members would respond, what was the best way to move forward. And I think we went live like January 26th. It was something the last week of January. And the day before the last business day, the last day before the last business day of the month, I sent a text message to someone we hadn't had payment or contact with in 90 days. So they were about to be charged off, and they paid the next day. So we pulled that account from charge off, and then they paid the account. And it was a small balance, but we were going back and forth with this member, calling them, sending them emails, sending them certified letters, nothing. We send a text, they make a payment the next day. That's exactly what we're looking for. And it's not that they responded to the text. It's not that they called us. They went in online banking, they made the payment. They did what we asked. So it was only up from there. February, we started to do more standardized and automated text. I developed templates. So we have the early stage that's like 5 days. Hey guys, not hey guys. Hello, sir or ma'am. I sound like I'm about to start a YouTube. Hey guys. Hello, sir or ma'am. Your account is this many days past due. Please call us or please make a payment. And then it gets a little firmer from there, like, hey, we've been trying to reach you. We haven't had any success. We want to help you. We're trying to help you work through this. And then it goes further down the line, like, hey, this account is about to go to the attorney. Please call us. If we're trying to avoid legal action, please give us a call. Yeah. So now that we've started that process, everybody who's coming through collections should have already got a text. But there were some members who were later stage who didn't. And when we sent them that text, they called us or they made a payment. So it's been very successful.
It's amazing. Actually, just to pick on that, the hey guys part, we might be laughing a little bit, but there's been some really great success stories at making the language a little bit more playful for people, like auto loan, using language like, hey, your auto loan payment has hit a speed bump, with a little emoji of the car, and funny enough, like
the emoji too.
Yeah, the emoji too. And so like that, the whole idea is to engage, individuals with messaging. Now, Would I send that to absolutely everybody across the portfolio? Maybe not so much in an older generation, but certainly the younger generations. I mean, I joke about this a lot. I think my nephew is going to be sick of me, but my nephew's just turned 15. He's 3 years away from being our next up and coming, borrower. And
Hmm.
likely at some point, in his early life, he will likely be late on a bill as well. I feel like that is a rite of passage for every, 18-year-old that, that has their first credit card. They get, dinged and slapped on the wrist to make them learn how to use it better. But the way that they speak is very different than most of the other
Yeah.
generations. And so I understand only a percentage of what my nephew says to me. And so I remain the cool uncle by not admitting that I have no idea what he's saying. But sending out messages the same way to a 55-year-old, a 60-year-old, as well as like a 20-year-old, I think there's an argument to be made that we can be a little bit more friendly, a little bit more playful in the language. Maybe not, hey guys, but something that, is engaging that way, right? Like that, those YouTube channels are supposed to be engaging. And I see communication the exact same way. And it's not to
Yeah.
take it as a joke, but really, like what is the spirit? What is the culture of the credit union, and what is the relationship that you guys have with members? And can that be codified in language, written, so that there is
Hmm.
that nature that comes through? So
And you want it to be warm. And I think so often people are embarrassed or they're ashamed. And the text message allows them, if they want to, keep it straightforward, just like the member I mentioned. She just made her payment. She didn't call us and say, oh, you guys, I'm so sorry. I've been out of touch. She made her payment, rectified the issue, and both, it was a win-win, which is
yeah,
exactly what we're looking for. And if the language is warmer in the beginning and they address, like, there's members who respond to our texts who are like, oh, I thought I set up an ACH. And they didn't realize their payment plan or their payment method wasn't successful. Quick and easy resolution. So
so
lots
that
of different benefits to it.
lots of different benefits to it. There are, two real big camps on the delinquency side. One is, finance related, where funds are the issue, and now we need to get creative with the solutions. The other one is not funds related, and it's more process driven. Either they didn't
Mm-hmm.
know, or they're skipping it on purpose, or whatever the reason is. It's more operational than it is financial, and those are the two big buckets. And then within there, there's obviously some subcategories that come out, and you helping to identify or be able to execute on those operational ones, right? Like here's your nudge, here's your way to do it, here's your way to get through it. And once they're informed, you do, kind of alleviate a number or a significant percentage of the portfolio that's there. That way, those members that have a more significant problem, that's when your team, yourself, and the rest of the group get to use your superpower of working with a member to figure out, where's the resolution,
Yeah. How mad would you be if your loan goes 30 days past due and it's because the money is in another account? You just didn't set it up correctly.
right? And
Upset, devastated.
yeah, and our first conversation is about how now I'm in delinquency and I didn't even realize that I was there. It's not the best way to start the relationship, especially in those indirect loan portfolio pieces.
Mhm.
Speaking of which, you mentioned that at the first initiation of this, there was also a little bit of work with the lending group, where the lending team was looking at some automation as well. You've been a really big advocate in our conversations about cross-departmental collaboration together. I'd love to take a little sidebar just talking about the strengthening collaboration that you work with together with lending, and what role does that play with communication? Talk to me a little bit about the synergy that you formed between, your group and that group.
Sure. So I feel like often collections is an island. Or it can be treated there. There's separate department, like lending and member services work very closely together because members join the credit union and they want their loan, so they're always working together. And collections was just kind of an afterthought that we're dealing with the problem kids and we're over here in the corner by ourselves. And I always felt like collections should be treated as a member service, just like lending. Just like a member has no problem to call lending because they know they're getting a loan, they know they're getting what they need, so they'll call them.
Yeah.
Whereas collections has to leave 17 messages to try to keep reiterating, like, hey, we're trying to help. Please call us, please. Just email me, just respond. But we want them to view us differently. And it starts internally. So I had to start the process of building that trust, opening the communication, establishing who was supposed to do what. So there's clear duties. That I can empower lending to take a payment if a member is only 20 days past due. And if not, you can set the table so the member knows, well, okay, well, maybe you can work with collections. They'll help you bring this current. Not, you need to get this together. If not, you're going to have to talk to collections. Like, we're not the bad guys. We're not making threats. We're not strong arming. That's not how you build that relationship. You might get the payment, but what's going to happen next month or when they really have a hardship that they can't overcome? Will they ignore you or will they reach out and work with you because they know that you want to help?
Yeah. Well, that leads to the bigger question of, collections working alongside, member services. So yeah, how do you shift that narrative so that members view collections as a service rather than an adversarial process? How does that start? Like, what's the messaging that goes into that? How do you change that narrative?
Well, it's on trend that so many collections are moving to debt solutions departments, and the titles are, instead of like collector one, it's debt solutions representative, but it has to be more than just the names and the titles of the department. It has to be actually showing and doing the work. So internally, we had meetings upon meetings, and we still have meetings. It doesn't go away, but it's opening the communication. So we're talking about wins, what's working, what's is successful. How do you feel when we help you with this, or what do you need help from with that? And then we talk about struggles, what needs to be fixed, what's not working, what's affecting you being able to do your job successfully. How can collections help? How can lending help? And it's little things that if you don't address it, might just go by the wayside. And it also helps that if you're bringing in front facing staff, I feel like so often mid level and senior managers make decisions and talk about things and how to fix them without talking about the people that experience them every day. So I have meetings with lending and collections with all of my collectors, and with, can't be all of lending, somebody has to be there, but we switch out different reps that are able to attend so we can all talk about what's happening, what's affecting them, and we can be candid about what's working and what's not. I'm a big fan of agendas. If you're in a meeting with me, I have an agenda, and I think that was drilled into me a long time ago. If you go to a meeting and they don't have an agenda, leave. They're about to waste your time. So any meeting I lead, I have an agenda. I'm tracking what we're talking about, and it's going to be recorded so that if we come back 3 months ago, like in March, Desiree said that we didn't have to do this. The March agenda says what you said. So here we go. Let's move forward. So
Totally.
all these things work together, and it makes it more seamless and makes us work together as a team easier.
Totally agree. So there's a perfect nugget that's outside of the technology, outside of collections. If you're in a meeting, you have to have an agenda. Otherwise, it could be
Well,
an
I'm leaving.
email. Send me an email with bullet points. And we've all been part of those same process, right? Like the meetings where it's like, this could have been an email and we could have all saved an hour of our life. And then there are some email trains where, what is going on? Let's jump on the phone because this is lunacy in terms of the
Yeah,
amount of replies and copying all and all the rest of the stuff. And
we're
so
losing the message. What is happening here?
we're losing where, yeah, the train is off the tracks and it's going to be a disaster. And so, to my point of communications is a never ending, kind of training bucket. I think you subscribe to this as well, which is why the constant stand-up meetings between yourselves and lending and member services so that everybody's on the same page because and we've just lived through this when there are mega events in the market. It could be something like COVID, a presidential election, things that happen like a war, that the markets shift, the reality of the world shifts, things like tariffs all of a sudden become a reality. Like there are changes that are
Hmm.
constantly going on. And with that, the change in language, the change in communication has to be in step with what is going on. Otherwise, you lose the connection, right? You can see that it just no longer fits. And that's when you lose engagement of the members. And like you said earlier, you're in the business of people helping people. And that
Hmm.
is the most amazing thing. And if you don't, by the way, for anybody, that has seen anything that I've said, I always give the definition of empathy on almost every single time that I speak. It's defined as the ability to understand and feel what the other person is going through, right?
Hmm.
So you made mention of that where they don't really understand what the member is going through. So how could you possibly, show empathy if you don't understand what the person is going through, right? And so that becomes key to the process. I love that you do it. Are there are there any type of cross training or joint initiatives that you do other than the stand up? Or is that really the alignment that keeps you guys focused? That meeting is kind of the North Star for you guys, or do you guys do anything else?
So, as a credit union, the whole credit union does quarterly training where we find a day, and it's usually early in the morning. We all get together and we talk about what's happening, what's current events, what's problematic, what do we need to fix. And those are the opportunities for training. And I'm big on training and education in the sense that we're going to answer questions, we're going to address needs.
Yeah.
If there's something you don't understand, ask. I'll pull out my PowerPoint slides or I'll pull out my learning tool, whatever the case, and we can all be on the same page. That's, to me, the biggest solution to help with some of the misconception and miscommunication. Making sure everybody understands and everybody understands how to fix it, what to do, keeping people informed. So I think training and communication, and I guess that's another meeting, unfortunately. Necessary evil. It gets things done.
Well, I love it. We were talking about it before. Desiree, you've listened to a couple of podcasts in the past. You use some of these podcasts for training. Tell me about that because that could be a little bit more ad hoc. We're trying to get on a more regular schedule. As you can see, guys, I'm obviously in a hotel room, so I'm right before a conference, and Desiree was kind enough to help me work this out into my schedule. But, Desiree, when you find those ad hoc, pieces, walk me through like how you use some of these things in your training. Maybe that'll help other people create some ad hoc training for their teams.
Sure. So I was a frequent watcher and listener of the Connect and Collect podcast, and at that I used it as and of course, Michael, I can't.
So kind.
You're such a great, such a great host. I enjoyed the episodes, and it wasn't just lip service. It truly was something that I listened to in the car on the way to work to have as a training topic or a relevant issue to discuss with my staff, but also as something for myself to say, oh, well, we don't do that. Maybe that's something we can consider. And the other thing that I know that meetings and trainings can get stale. If we're doing the same thing every 2 weeks, it helps to have a visual aid or an audio aid or a video that they can watch on YouTube. And we can spend 20 minutes just to watch that snippet together and then talk about the takeaways. I could watch the same video you could watch and you could take away something different than I do. And then once you have the takeaway, how does it apply to what we do here? Because if it's a great takeaway from someone who's at a credit union that's 20 times the size of ours, then we need to know, okay, so what can we do with it at Money One? How can we help us? So it's good for the team building too.
Yeah, 100%. Well, I'm gonna start to close this up, but I've got 3 very pointed questions that are going to be kind of our final thoughts and looking ahead and, advice or comments that hopefully from some of the other takeaways. I mean, the takeaways just on the agenda in a meeting, that one there is going to save a lot of people a lot of time. Forget about on the collection side. That's a piece. I loved how you championed communication before the grace period ends, where now you're giving more time to the member and playful language, kind language to get involved. The tidbits about developing the team and keeping them motivated, etc., I think is a really great reinforcement. But here are 3 things that I'm going to ask you directly that I'd love for you to share, with anybody listening. And so the first one is going to be if you could give any one piece of advice to a credit union executive looking to modernize their collections approach, what would it be?
To modernize their collections approach, make sure that you have multiple ways for the member to reach you and to pay. That seems to be the biggest hurdle. Is like, okay, so they set up e-statements, and some people feel like, oh, that's digital, and members can do that on their own time. But how often does a member have an e-statement and they just delete the email when they're deleting 20 other marketing emails, not knowing what the communication is? So if you can send a text message, or if you can send something else that will get the members' attention, if you want to reach them, you want to have omni-channel. That's the big buzzword now too. How many different ways can we reach these members? And sometimes, the funny part, we had a success story in February. We had a deceased member that we just could not reach, and his home equity, a large balance, was going past due. We were just trying to figure out what to do. So we incorporated door knocks, which is old school collections. But sometimes you got to meet people where they are, meet the situation where it is.
Yeah.
We sent a door knock. We figured out who was the admin of the estate and brought the account current. So you have to figure out different ways to reach the members, the best way for them to pay, and for them to help you help them and resolve the issue.
So that, I know a lot of buzzwords tend to make everybody's skin crawl because that becomes just, over.
Circle back, parking lot.
Yeah, scalability, immediate impact, it just it's all the buzzwords that, you know, get paid a lot of money to just repeat over and over. But the omni-channel is one that I think sticks and it holds.
Mhm.
And what that is I use this example often. Every credit union that I've ever spoken to, I ask them always the same question. Do you ever receive a check in the mail to make a payment on a loan? And everybody kind of nods, and the answer is yes. And it's a little bit of a pain. And not a single credit union is going to go out there and say, stop sending us checks, right? That's not going to be a thing. What we will work on together is how do we process that check in the fastest way possible for the member in order to make sure that it's accommodated for. And look, once upon a time, I feel like there were a lot of checks that were received in the mail, and now there's only a few that are in there. But you need the ability to offer every single vehicle of communication available to the member so that they can choose to communicate with you in the channel that they want to communicate, right? That is the first step in creating that relationship. And then whatever it is, you're accommodating for it. So I 100% agree. The equal to your part of offer a lot of options to a member
Mhm.
of how to pay is incredibly important. Most people have more than one financial institution. And so if you can draw funds from multiple locations, you just increase your likelihood of success. And that is
Mhm.
the name of the game when it comes to helping to service members is increase your effectiveness, increase the percentage of success, because you still know that no matter what technology you're putting in place, there are still going to be those members that will be foreclosed on, repossessed on, closure
Mhm.
on, and unfortunately that is just real life. But help the team manage as much as possible through that piece by giving members the greatest options. Amazing.
Yeah, that's that whole unwilling versus unable. Like you're unwilling, okay, you have these hardships, you can't afford it, I'm sorry, you're unable. You're having
Yep.
hardship, you can't afford to make these payments. We'll still try to do what we can until we determine the next steps.
Yep.
But if you just don't know how to pay, like we should be able to pull out our laundry list, like, okay, you could do this, and what about that? And you don't want to do online banking, we'll do that. And what about this?
Yeah. Well,
There should be no reason why we can't get your payment if you want to make your payment.
exactly. If you want to make your payment, we should find a way to be able to process that payment. That's the golden nugget right there. I love it. Question two that I've got for you, and I love asking people some of this because it is so difficult to predict the future, but I'm going to try to put you on the spot here. Looking ahead, what trends do you think are going to have the biggest impact on credit union collections in the next 3 to 5 years? Where do you see it going?
Not to throw out another buzzword or a word that gets thrown around all the time, but I definitely think artificial intelligence and AI will start to transform, especially early stage collections where it's not so much of the relationship management, it's the payment reminder. A lot of that can be automated and then it frees up the early stage collectors to do other things. So I was just telling my team a couple weeks ago, like, I don't think we'll ever AI ourselves out of the job. There's still that human touch that's needed. There's still that personalization. There's still people that want to talk to people, or you need to figure out other solutions. But things that can be automated and will save time and money down the line.
I could not agree more. We see a number of entities, doubling down on that. I think, for types of conversations like, inquiries of balance and, simple
Mhm.
things like the transactional items, right? Like make a payment or check a balance or transfer funds, like things like that can be executed in a self-serve and just easy directions, either through generative AI to help the member walk through and have that response because it is not a complex transaction, should absolutely be funneled into that area. That is where the credit union will see the lower cost of loan servicing. It is a
Mhm.
better, experience for the member as a whole. And so I agree with you. AI are two letters that have been driving me a little bit crazy because there's AI in everything. The coffee maker now has AI and all the rest of the stuff. I think there are different definitions for the term, but the way that you described it, especially on the earlier stage where there isn't so much the relationship, it's more about the transaction, much like automation was the buzzword, right? Like big data,
Mhm.
automation, machine learning. The transactional pieces can absolutely be automated to remove those out of the queue, which by the way, that's what the members want as well. So I,
And I mean, even late stage, I think when they start to get the technology about behavioral science and then identifying risk and then customizing options and all that, now we're still here to help navigate that. Because I think when you go too far in the AI without human to look at it and see the details, because sometimes it's not as simple as the numbers and the facts. There's other things you need to read into. And sometimes that human interaction will get that, but the data analytics and the science behind that will help make your job easier when you get to that point.
yeah, and it'll point and tell you what Michael Pupil versus Desiree Williams is more apt at doing. And again, it's about increasing the percentage of success.
Yeah.
Third and last but not least, and maybe very, very fitting because I mentioned that I'm going to be here at NCUCA and the percentage of wins, it's being held in Las Vegas. So there's a casino below me. Not that I plan on doing that. I know how that's going to work out for me, but it's stopped me over and over again. It's not going to be in my favor, so I may as well just keep it. But I'd love to ask you, Desiree, are there any industry events or networking opportunities where leaders like yourselves can learn more about the evolving best practices? What are you taking part in over the course of the year? And maybe you can share with those as to some of the resources that you lean on.
So definitely want to shout out CUCP. Acronyms tear me up, let me tell you. CUCP, Credit Union Collections Professionals. So you had a conversation with
Alicia
Alicia?
Blondell. Alicia Blondell.
That was one of my first Connect and Collect. And when she was talking about it, and then I Googled it, and then I found the roundtable. So I listened to the roundtable every month, and I'm attending the conference in New Orleans in May. So definitely shout out to them. The Collections Leadership Institute, I told you acronyms, LSCI, Rex Johnson. That's all you need to know. I attended that last year. Great environment, lots of information, great networking. And networking, even though I love people and talking to people, but networking can get such a bad rap. But sometimes when you surround yourself with people who are passionate about what you are, it just comes naturally. Like you're going to start talking about, oh, what are you doing? And how's that working for you? And what are you guys working on next year? And what happened last year? It just flows. So I attended that. I had some great connections from there. I'm part of that listserv as well. And then your local credit union league. So MD, so here we go. MDDC, the Maryland DC Credit Union Association, has a great local league that they have a roundtable. They also have in-person roundtables sometimes throughout the year. And I believe they're having a conference this year too. So those are my big three. There's probably plenty more. And that's the thing. Once you start digging, there's conferences and lots of different things that you can attend. Just finding people who are like-minded, who will share their information and that you can learn and build with. It's such a game changer. Game changer is another buzzword, by the way, but you can't avoid it.
Exactly.
It happens.
Exactly. Well, look, let's give three shout outs. The Maryland League. So for those listening, every state has a credit union league. And so I imagine that everybody is very well familiar, but it is great to plug into the league, find out what resources they have. In fact, I just did a training for the California Nevada League not long ago. And so happy to share that deck with you and that recording with you because it was based on a little bit of a training that happened with another podcast member that we had. Shout out to Alicia Blondell, who is part of CUCP and part of that board. And there's a lot of amazing people that are part of that group. And so we will get to see each other in May face to face, which I'm certainly looking forward to. And shout out to LSEI as well. And you mentioned a person by name, Rex.
Rex Johnson.
Rex
So
Johnson.
he was the founder who, it started as a lending school, but they started a collections branch and they had so much, I think we're in the people business was one of his big quotes. Like that's the focus here. And you have to always step back and remind yourself, it's more than just the numbers. It's the person. How are you going to help them? What's the win-win that we can take away? And I really appreciated that message too.
As do I. So I've never met or been introduced to Rex. So shout out to you, Rex. I hope that we get to connect at some point. It sounds like we're all birds of a feather when it comes to this. Desiree,
Rex is deceased, but his daughter does the conference.
Oh my
Sorry, I should have led with that.
Foot in mouth as I remove this.
No, that's all on me. That's all on me.
Yeah,
I should have led with that. But his daughter, because she honors his memory, so we watched lots of videos and we heard lots of information from him. So I'm sure she would have appreciated what you had to say either way. So
then I would love to reach out to her daughter because then his legacy still lives on, and there is nothing greater to hear than legacy living on. So that is a beautiful way to do it. So I can't think of a better way to kind of wrap this up. I'm glad that I left that question for last because that's a beautiful message going forward.
I think so too.
Desiree, any last comments before I say thank you to our listeners? This was so much fun, and I can't thank you, and I'm so excited to see you in May. I know we've been doing a lot of these over Zoom, but any parting comments for the Eltropy Exchange today?
No, thank you for the opportunity. As somebody who watched this and took away from it and saw the benefit, it's amazing to be able to do this. And then I think my takeaway is never doubt the meaning or the impact of a small message. I saw Michael on a training and I sent him an email like, hey, I remember you and I appreciate all that you did with Connect and Collect. And here we are. So I'm thankful. I appreciate it. I appreciate you.
Well, that is wildly humbling, Desiree, and it's right. You were part of a different webinar that I was doing, and you just passed it, and then we just struck up a conversation, and we saw, what this can do. And so, for those listening, our idea behind, what was Connect and Collect under Lexop has now translated into the Eltropy Exchange podcast, now that the merger has taken place. But the goal and the mission remains the same, is to, interview collections leaders within credit unions to talk about their best practices, their trials and tribulations, what can make the industry better. And as everybody knows, and I'm not shy about saying this, is that there is a deep commitment to the credit union community in kind of pushing back on payday lenders as a source of, lending. And I would love if we can reverse the math, where there are over 20,000 payday lender, organizations that are out there coast to coast, and there is a shrinking number of credit unions. I would love to see those metrics start to push back to everybody. And I think it is that partnership between lending and collections that is going to be the key by powering technology to reach out to members, especially the newest demographics. So, Desiree, a big thank you. Thank you first for reaching out and taking these conversations and organizing with me to make this take place. I hope that you had a lot of fun today in doing this as well.
I did. Anytime I can learn something and have a laugh, I'm good for the day.
I love it. And so thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We're looking forward to bringing you more on the Eltropy Exchange. And to those listening, I hope it was well worthwhile. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're listening to this from. And hopefully we get to see each other again soon. Thank you again, Desiree. See you later, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Eltropy Exchange podcast. For more insights and resources, visit us at eltropy.com. We'll see you next time.